If you are speaking, that there you go.
There we go. No, I can hear you perfect. You can hear me all right now?
Yes, I can hear you well. How
Awesome.
was your weekend?
Hey, man, can't complain. The weather here is definitely, what do you say? It's falling. It's falling for here for sure. It's really cringy, but, I'm cool with it. I'm ready for the temperatures to go down just a little bit. You guys get four seasons where you're at, right?
Yes. So you are like in a hot season right now? No, you are in. Yeah,
We
you are in.
finished summer, so we're heading into fall here.
Yeah, it's the same here. Yeah, exactly. It's the same here. Yeah, here the temperature like it started to cool down. Like we stopped using the air conditioner after a very high electricity bill in the past month. But but yeah, I think the temperature has gotten down, so that's an improvement. So I think at least you can go out and not sweat all the way, walk into whatever you want to walk. So that's an improvement. I must say.
Right on. Yeah, man. I know you guys got hit by these energy prices, and hope everything works out all right with that, man. I know things are getting probably gonna get more expensive in the winter there. We actually
Yeah.
had our AC unit that had to get replaced, but it died uh, in time for it to get cooler. So
Oh
a little bit
wow.
of time. Yeah, I mean, we got somebody coming out this week to take care of it, but it was the timing could have been worse. Put it that way.
Yeah, like I don't know how I would like on my privileged mind. I don't know how I will have done without the air conditioner. I mean, I think yeah, it's with the heat wave that was here in Europe. I cannot think in any other way.
Yeah, man. Well, I don't know. I'm looking forward to getting into the news with you today. We got a number of cool stories here, both sort of at the Dow metal and in the broader crypto space. Yeah. But GM to everybody who's with us, remember we can tune in on 1HTV on YouTube as well, because we're going to get into a couple stories today that might be worth taking a look at on the video. What do you think, Edu? You want to kick into it here with the grants stuff?
Sure, sure. Do you want to explain a little bit about the sources of truth that we are using here today? In the case of, I think, Masari.
Sure, yeah, totally. So let's see. I can show you the front end if you're watching on YouTube. If you're not, we do talk about this because I think it's an important thing to note, and I think for people to use if they're interested in the same stuff we are, and we talk about here on Monday, which is Messari.io, right? So Messari Crypto is one of the one of the leading. Well, I think it started off as essentially an investing analytics company, but it's branched out, and they have a lot of different features that are available for free. Some that, of course, you got to pay for. It is a business after all. They have um, a massive conference up in New York. I believe if it's not this week, then it's next week. Called Mainnet. So Missouri Mainnet is something to keep an eye on. It's definitely at the intersection of fintech and Web3. So they got not only everybody from A16Z to Bloomberg reporters to major Wall Street banks there. It's an interesting part of the industry, of course, and I think that one that is obviously increasingly relevant because it's really at that point of relationship and potential friction or cooperation with like the legacy financial space, regulators, etc. So here I am, Shilly Mazzari. We use it as a source of truth, as Edu said, each week. In combination really with Snapshot. So what we've found is that Snapshot obviously is great for stories that are that are being voted on, or that like an early, in the case of say Uniswap, a temperature check. So Snapshot is obviously one of our sources of truth. One of the nice things about Massari, and the Massari governor in particular, is that it sources its data from discourse. Okay, so meaning you can actually tap into conversations that are happening at different DAOs and projects, at that conversational level. It's maybe elevated from Discord, but most DAOs follow a similar governance path, and so the Messari UI lets you sort of tap in early in the ideation process, and then obviously cross that with the use of Snapshot to figure out whether or not it's going to come to fruition. But yeah, that's sort of that's the rundown for Messari. Again, Messari.io, and they got if you're looking on YouTube, 1HTV on YouTube, you can see, and we'll navigate through the UI here as we're going through the stories today. Is there anything you want to add, Edu?
No, that was good. I think also, and I will say that I believe Dune helped the development of these kind of tools. We were short. I think, a little bit short in data in the Web3 space. So I think Dune sort of came to solve this, and we will have a bunch of tools that will also, as Messari, will help to sort of cover the aspects of the other tools that they are not covering. So that's really cool. I really like that. All right. So shall we jump into the first one, which is the Rocket Pool Dao budget allocation, RPIP 10. So you may not know, you may know we are a little bit of fans of Rocket Pool here on 1HTV, and we have covered different news. But this one, I think it's the first time we have seen a grant from Rocket Pool, and this proposal, basically, that's on a preliminary, that's on the chain vote. The idea of this is to establish the PDAO, or how the PDAO can and should take in funds, disperse them, and move them. Secondly, the concept of management committees, which are in charge of spending the funds, and the initial split of incoming funds. 50% to incentives, 30% to grants and bounties, and 20% to reserve treasury. So we are increasing, I feel like maybe it's, the motto of building season in beer market. But I for some reason I start seeing this incremental of grants. So this passed with 99%, almost 5K votes on it. So that's really good. What are your thoughts? You are unmuted, so.
There we go. Yeah, no, as we mentioned in the past, and as you said today, I think we're fans of Rocket Pool. If you don't know, this is it's a non-custodial way to stake your ETH. So if you are interested, right? If you're not able to run a full node, if you don't have 32 ETH, you basically have a choice. You go to a centralized third party in an exchange and essentially hand over your keys to earn yield, or you can do it directly on chain. And so Rocket Pool is one of the projects that has been doing that, and the Lato Finance obviously is another. But in this case, in this story we're talking about, as Edu mentioned, they have a grants and bounties management committee and a program they're looking to stand up here. And so you can read about the details in the link that I posted beneath the Twitter space here. So I linked up, I think I linked directly to the Messari page you're seeing on Twitter, or excuse me, seeing on YouTube, but it goes over to their forum, which is where the discussion is happening, and it really is in these hyperlinks to former posts on this topic. But yeah, this is, if you are a fan of Rocket Pool, maybe you're already aware of this. If you have any other alpha or any details to share, feel free to drop them in the discussion, the comment section beneath the Twitter space. And we'll be returning to this, obviously. We're sort of keeping track of the projects in the space that are, in particular, spinning up new grants programs. There's a number of projects that dropped tokens at some point this year. And some of them had a program to immediately stand up, grant opportunities, and others have taken their time with doing that. But I think it's definitely worth taking a look at, because obviously these programs can lead to experimentation and building on top of and around some of these industry-leading protocols, and that's where you get a lot of cool new shit. Like the existing cool stuff is now able to leverage its coolness through its tokenization, essentially, and other treasury holdings to help incentivize people to use these tools and to build cool new things off of them. So this is just again, I think grants intersects with the composability of crypto in general, and we try to keep track of that on a weekly basis here. So yeah, Rocket Pool getting into the action here, and I think some of this gets super nerdy really quick in terms of like the logistics of creating a grants program. So that's a whole larger conversation, but it sort of overarches some of these stories. And I know, Edu, you probably have thoughts on that, but what's on your mind?
Yeah. So PDAO, which basically stands for the protocol DAO, basically they have a discussion on the forum, which is dao.rocketpool.net. You will see that they are currently discussing the grants program. I think they just had a discussion in Discord and so on. So you can take a look at that if you're interested in the grants from Rocket Pool, either on their Discord or in the forum. They have a section for the grants program. So it's a current discussion. It's already sort of alive. So we will see how that progress. And then we can move on into the next proposal, which is from Hope Protocol. Hope Protocol has become quite, relevant. I feel, and this is a small detour, but I feel that there is this tendency of every cycle a new sort of kind of exchange tool kind of protocol arrives, and they sort of take control for a season, and then time passes, and then a new protocol arrives in the same ecosystem, maybe, or a new ecosystem, and it's quite interesting to see this cycle getting repeated. Happen with, I don't know, let's say Sushi or PancakeSwap, then suddenly you never heard about them again, and then someone else comes again. So in this case, we are going to talk about HubDAO. Have you used Hub?
Yeah, dude, I'm a big fan of Hop. Yeah, sorry for the delay there. Big fan of Hop. I have the first bridge I ever used was Connext. And then I've used Across a few times, and I know if we were smart, we'd be doing Across, and we should get into this, by the way. They got a great affiliate marketing program. I don't know if it's still going on, but Across. But you stick with what you know, and the more you learn about how dangerous bridges are, it just makes you stick with what you've used successfully. I feel like I digress. But I have used Hop. I used Hop quite a bit actually, and managed to get a little bit of an airdrop when they did it earlier this year. And so I've been holding Hop, been holding OP. I think that these, for the quick rundown, Hop protocol, people haven't used it before. As compared to other bridging solutions, Hop uses kind of a Uniswap model for cross-chain asset transfer. I don't know. And so, they, as I said, they dropped their token earlier in the year, and clearly they're looking to allocate, it looks like $750,000 Hop to this. Is that right? I don't think that's the number it looks like. I'm not sure what the market value is of that. I'm going to look it up really quick.
This proposal that started on September 22. Basically, it's still on preliminary discussion, but the proposal aims to trial a Hope grants program with 750K Hope tokens to incentivize independent developers building on the Hub protocol. The program will allocate 100,000 Hope as a grant to developer submissions and review the process after 6 months for performance. Any unused funds will get returned to the Hub DAO treasury or roll over into a formal Hub development grant program. A grant committee of 5 members will determine approval of funds disbursements via multi-sig wallet. Did you find how much is the equivalent of that?
I put up on screen there for a second. It's about 95K. It's just a little under 100,000. Hop protocol. Hop is at about 12.5 cents. So and this is for what duration of time do you say? Is it for a full year, or is it 6 months?
6 months. So they will have cycles of 6 months, and then they will have a check-in after those 6 months. It's quite low. I thought Hop protocol had a higher value in the token. That is interesting. All right.
Yeah, I don't know. It's I haven't watched the price for Hop, but
The price is
I'm not sure what it launched at.
0.12 cents.
Right. Yeah. It's like 12 and a
Yeah.
half. I'm not sure what it launched at, but like I said, I haven't watched the token price that much. I definitely, I mean, not financial advice, but if anybody else has been watching Hop, definitely a team and a project that's continued to build, and I like their solution, put it that way, to try to decentralize cross-chain swaps. So
Yeah.
definitely check them out, folks, if you haven't before.
All right. So that's on the end of Hub Protocol. Yeah, I will. This is not financial advice. This is more of a reminder to myself. I will probably buy some Hub tokens since it's so low. You know, a few dollars there doesn't hurt anyone. All right.
Yeah.
And then we keep going with the Balancer Grants program. We can call this section the grants section of the Monday show. This it's a proposal called BIP basically 76. And these proposals aim is to continue the operation of the Balancer Grants program and approve the Balancer Grants budget for Q4 2022. The Balancer Grants team does not request additional funding from the Dao Treasury given the recent increase in gold price. However, this proposal will approve 100,009 BOL in total expense to the team from the Grand Dao Treasury and 38,000 BOL committed as grant rewards. I didn't know that the BOL price had increased, by the way.
Say the last part you said about ball price.
Yeah, it says here they do not request additional funding from the Dao Treasury given the recent increase in the BOL price.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I'm not sure what that refers to either. I mean, obviously they're referring to price action here, but I'm not. I guess context matters here.
Oh yeah,
Because
I
like
can.
relative to what, right? It's like I haven't looked at the chart. Let's see. Maybe we can find it.
So yeah, it was. I mean, it was in $4. Yeah, it sort of increased a little bit a few weeks ago. Yeah, to 7 and so on. So I guess they made some changes because um, since basically, yeah, since the beginning of the beer market, it started to drop down as everyone else, and it had a little peak in a few months ago. So I guess they refer to that as the increase of price. I guess when you have such a large, you know, holding in your funds, these changes affect positively the protocol. But anyway, so
yeah, no, totally. I see that. I'm looking at the chart now. You can see a little bit in terms of like, look at so the bottom for BAL was mid-June, and then it's definitely up since then. But obviously since like the middle of this month, things have been declined a bit. Yeah. So there, I mean, this is not an example of a new program. Obviously, this is simply going to determine the parameters if they're of continuing into Q4, what they're already doing.
correct. And if we go to their snapshot, there is a further explanation on this sort of grant program, and they basically go through all the things that they want to do. Like the grant program provides support and funding up to 100K USD to projects committed to supporting the Balancer protocol in achieving its mission to become the #1 source of liquidity for DeFi. The program it's made for groups and individuals that aspire to run a project that builds on the Balancer protocol or supports the development of the Balancer ecosystem, while the Foundation SP model is aimed at a long-term engagement or those with a cost beyond 100K USD grants are an alternative pathway aimed at funding smaller short-term of one-off projects. And yeah, so you have also the name of the grants committee and so on. So I don't know. It's a very well thought kind of proposal. It's a very long proposal also. With all the details and specifications, multi-sig, who are the grants committee people, the amount that they're requesting, and the description, justifications. They are, for example, they have a Q4 grants and the amount that we talk about, which is 9K BOL. to grant co-lead, 5 committees members sort of budget price or like salaries, other salaries, other programs expenses, and a total budget request. So I don't know. I think it's sort of rounded and quite nice. All right. Any thoughts on ball before we move on?
No, dude, I just wanted to sort of, put that in there. Obviously, as you said, it's always a well-written proposal. They got their Q4 funding probably locked in yesterday. It passed. So, yeah. Obviously, Balance is going to continue to build, and as I said, it's always nice to look on some of these blue chips that people might have had the chance to invest at 2 years ago or beyond, and see how they're continuing to push the needle forward. The other one for Balancer was the Karpathy proposal that I don't know if it went through the snap yet. Let's see. No, it's just in the forum. But if people are familiar with, I don't know, you're familiar with Karpathy? They do the work for Reversible Dao and probably some other communities, but I'm not aware.
So at the beginning, when I read this proposal, Ted, I must admit, I thought I was reading the antivirus. This antivirus for Windows called Kaspersky.
No, Kaspersky. Okay, yeah.
I thought we were talking about that because the name and so on. And then I read the proposal, which says completely the opposite, has nothing to do with Kaspersky. This is Karpathy, and they are looking basically to manage Balancer DAO treasury. The only thing is that under Twitter, the Karpathy Twitter, they are not very popular. So that's an interesting, sort of on the ground, kind of not very active in social media, which I guess they don't need to. If you're handling DAOs or communities treasury management, you sort of, I will think you are more of a low profile kind of project. But anyways, so this DAO requests that all non-VBAL token holdings and 100,000 VBAL tokens get delegated to get used in Balancer governance interest. The fund will be managed to execute strategies in whitelisted protocols in a non-custodial, trust-minimized way, such that the Balancer always has control of the funds. What do you think about these delegations?
Yeah, no, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, so I don't know if somebody's listening to this before or after the fact, but Karpathy, again, the first time that I learned about their service, essentially their service DAO, right, was through Gnosis, which I think is reflected. I mean, if you click through to the forum post, and I can link some of this up on the Twitter space as well. But if you're looking on YouTube, you can see a really nice breakdown pie chart of their existing client base, essentially. I think probably in dollar value, Gnosis is like over half, but they do have a pretty nice suite of other clients, over a dozen, the likes of Synthetic Keeper DAO, Aave, some Shapeshift, Pi DAO, Nouns DAO, so people intersecting in the NFT space. But it's essentially, as you've observed, that it's like a service DAO that is a treasury management as a service on chain, right? It's a very specific niche business, and yeah, I think that their business is much more focused on that side of things, rather than like Twitter comms, for example. But it is definitely, like, let's put it this way. Karpathy is the type of service DAO that you see that is providing this real tangible value for on-chain organizations. So I'm definitely bullish on what they're doing. My understanding, for particular people that I worked with at Gnosis, is that these guys are like their top people are working 80-hour weeks. Like, they're really trucking on this. So big ups to them. Wanted to cover this. Obviously, it would be another a big picture client for them to lock in here, and I imagine that the support's probably pretty strong. I haven't read the comment section, but I don't think they're like competing with another. Maybe they're competing with an internal work stream, but I don't know that much about Balancer to say like if it's essentially a no bid kind of thing. Like, there's nobody competing for this TM responsibility. But we'll see if they strike a partnership.
Yeah, and I mean, if you go down to the forum post, It's a long forum post in all the good ways. Let's say. Sometimes you find these forum posts are really long, but nonsense. This one has a lot of justification. I mean, you're managing something quite relevant, so I guess you gotta make all the details in order to. And most of the comments seems to be, agreeing with this comment, and most of them seems to just request clarification regarding certain aspects of that. But and they are very, and the team from them are very responsive from the firm. So basically, until 20 hours ago, there was only about 8 questions or 8 segments. So, and all of them were answered. So that's really good for them. Um, so that's good. And the other part of the proposal is that they will also aid Balancer in creating a treasury core unit composed of full-time contributors charged with promoting treasury management efficiency while also reporting its weekly performance. And Carpet Dao management fee will be 0.5% of the AUM and a performance fee of 20% in BAL tokens vested over a year. So seems fair to me. What do you think that's a fair amount of management fee? 0.5%?
Yeah, I don't know, man. That's beyond my. I don't know what a fair market price is for that specific service, but like, let's put it this way. From again, look, I'm not really. It's not even financial advice. I'm just commenting on an outfit that I know through secondhand. Right? They're always publishing like clockwork their work to the Gnosis DAO forum. I don't think that they've delivered anything but market leading results for the treasury. I mean, you can go if you're listening to this call and you're like interested in Karpathy and treasury management for DAOs. Like, I would recommend you go to the Gnosis DAO forum, forum.gnosis. Oh man, is it .io? Now I'm gonna screw up the end of the URL. Go to the Gnosis DAO forum. Just Google that. Find Karpathy, and you'll see. I think actually keyword be Karpathy, but it might also be like a week in Gnosis Farms or something like that. Like, they basically post a PDF that you can look into and see all of the technicals on what they're doing, like every transaction, the return rate, all that for the treasury. And so, yeah, I think that a partnership with Balancer makes a lot of sense. We keep coming back to, just for what it's worth, Balancer is on the agenda, I don't know, at least once or twice out of every month. We're doing this every single week. So they got a lot of action still around what they're doing. And I think that is an indicator for Karpathy, right? They want to look for, it seems to me the ultimate client for Karpathy is like an active DAO that's got a big treasury, right? In a sense. So, and helping to build capacity internally makes, yeah, I mean, I feel like that's necessary if you want to like maintain a decentralized approach to this kind of thing, right?
Yeah,
But yeah.
I agree. So that's on the end of Balancer. Then we have the OP incentives. Do you want to talk about Optimism?
Sure, man. This is just another like, and it's checking in with the OP governance, as we tend to do almost every week, right? Because they have a lot of interesting projects coming and applying for ecosystem incentives. So this is the first one we've seen from Yearn, though, and so again, Yearn Finance obviously on OP and requesting, what is it, 1 million OP over 40 weeks. So they're requesting 25,000 OP a week in incentives, and we can see what that is in USD just for the shits and giggles here. If you're watching on YouTube, 1HTV, we do have everything up on screen here that we're talking about. So let's see, 25K. So they're looking for, yeah, it's trading just under $1. Optimism is around 90 cents. So that's about 22.5K in incentives per week on Yearn for Optimism. So again, this is currently in the forum, but I don't imagine Yearn getting shut down. So I guess the alpha is here. OP on Yearn. OP incentives available on Yearn probably mid-October. I don't know, before the end of next month.
Yeah, it doesn't show up. It doesn't open to me the link, so I cannot read. For some reason, the link doesn't work for me. The necessary link for the journey incentives. I don't know what's going on there.
Here, I popped it in Discord for you, and I'll actually put it in the Twitter space as well, folks.
All right, let me get that. Yeah, it doesn't. It doesn't. For some reason, it doesn't open to me. So there's nothing I can add on that topic. But whenever you are ready, we can move on. I would like to talk about Aave. Actually, they have a proposal that's quite interesting. It's a little bit out of the scope of the finances
Go for
aspect.
it, man.
But... All right. So we are seeing another proposal that started on September the 20th. It ended on September the 23rd. And it's a very simple proposal, but to me, it's quite a powerful one. It says add logging with unstoppable domains as an option to the Wallet Connect dialog of the Aave app. Basically, they are proposing an integration. In addition to providing users with a human-readable wallet address, unstoppable domains also features an SSO type decentralized universal Web3 login that can be integrated into any DApp. The proposed integration will also add unstoppable domains as an option to the Wallet Connect dialog of the Aave app. Do you use Aave? I don't remember if you used it or not.
Yeah, of course, man, for sure. Mostly on Polygon, but yeah.
Do you think this makes it like? Do you have unstoppable domains? I don't have unstoppable domains, but do you?
I think I do from like last year sometime.
Right.
Yes, but it's not something I followed or like closely. Although, yeah, go ahead, man. So I have it. I'm aware of Unstoppable.
No. Just wondering. So they are, there's a lot of mixed feelings regarding unstoppable domains. If for those folks who doesn't know, they are like ENS. They have over 2.5 million domains registered and support over 275 coins and tokens and has over 450 integrations with other apps. And it's a constantly growing ecosystem. I remember at some point Paris Hilton got unstoppable domains rather than renewing her ENS, and that was kind of a thing at the moment.
Hilton, oh my god.
Yes, she is an icon in the Web3 space. You know that, we all know that. So, anyways,
the top signal.
Yes, exactly. So they explained that due to the unstable domain's large and ever-growing user base, many current Aave users will likely already benefit from having this additional option to connect their wallets with the app, and this number is bound to only go up in the future. In addition, unstable domains can help more people find their way to Aave by listing the application on our website, as well as providing other co-marketing options, including but not limited to an announcement on our Twitter 280k followers by resharing Aave post tweets, adding Aave as a partner on our main page, and adding information about Aave and our partnership to our newsletter, 300k audience. So it looks more than a marketing sort of thing rather than actually an integration. But I don't know. I guess this is part of the deal. It was voted yes with an 89%. And 11,000k Aave tokens on this proposal. I don't know. I guess
their quorum is. Sorry, I don't know.
No.
Aave.
I have no clue. But for me, what is interesting is this sort of race that we are seeing with who wins the race of logging with. Sort of, logging with your Ethereum wallet, logging with your ENS domain, logging, So there is we will see who wins this, who is stays at the end of the race. But it's interesting to sort of, you can start using your short name, you can start using other alternatives. You don't have to use the hexadecimal sort of number. So I thought it was a curious proposal. Most of the times the things that we see in the Aave snapshot are related to adding new assets and so on. So this is a change, and
yeah. I'll just add real quick that Shapeshift has the plans to integrate unstoppable domains as well. So I know that that's something coming down the pike. Unstoppable domains is got a lot of they got BD going on, and we're going to talk, but really quick, we will do the Fox Crypt promo giveaway. I know I said that we announced that from the Twitter space. So if people are here to partake, definitely stick around. GM to everybody.
All right, and the other one that because there's a bunch of proposals on the Aave ecosystem for this cycle, we're just gonna run down two that are sort of interesting. One is the Llama. Llama came again to One Hive TV, and they are outlining a 12-month proposal to work with Aave on treasury management, protocol upgrades, growth, and analytics. For those who are not familiar, Llama is one of the most active contributors to Aave, and they hope to deepen their engagement with the community and ensure that Aave is a market-leading protocol for many decades to come. And they have received grants from Aave Grants DAO over the past 12 months to work for work that includes treasury management and protocol upgrades, DAO to DAO partnerships, and analytics. And Aave Grants has recommended that they move from a short-term grant to a longer-term work scope funded through governance, allowing them to drive more impact to the Aave ecosystem. So this has been voted with yes. This is a difference. This proposal has 100,000 Aave tokens. For example, the unstoppable domains that we just talked had 11. So you can see the difference in the core since you mentioned that. And that's one proposal that we will see closing in 2 days. And we see how Llama has sort of increased their presence and getting more getting robust with time. And there is also an incoming ARC proposal, which is change admin role of Optimism and Arbitrum V3 markets. And the simple summary of this says that when this proposal will be up, which will be up today later on, is that Aave V3, Arbitrum, and Optimism markets are currently governed by the community guardian, a 6 out of 10 elected multi-stake of 10 Aave community members with the responsibility to enforce community decisions on a snapshot on chain. This ARC intends to replace the community guardian in favor of an Aave governance contract for the administration of Arbitrum and Optimism V3 markets. Their justification of this is that as cross-chain governance bridges receive recent audits and in favor of a more decentralization of Aave, this AAP intends to fade the community guardian role in Arbitrum and Optimism V3 in favor of the Aave governance contracts. And this means that if the AAP is validated by the Aave governance, every AAP concerning the Arbitrum and Optimism markets will require an on-chain AAP vote to directly modify the Aave V3 markets on these networks, for example, onboard a new asset or change asset risk parameters. So yeah, that's the other one that seems quite relevant on Aave. Since we were on the topic of optimism, might as well talk about this. So
I agree, and it's interesting to see this. This is it. From what my understanding is, it seems like a pretty substantial step towards progressive decentralization. If you're moving away from a multi-sig and to the on-chain contract, that seems like a good thing.
You are right. So the other one, before we sort of close this, is the Tribe DAO and the Fae protocol. I think we talked about Fae at the beginning of the year. Am I wrong? We talked about Fae like in two different senses. The first time, later last year, and I think we talked about it again at this year at some point. I cannot recall specifically when. Do you recall? Let me check Fae. Yeah, I can see.
In the past. Yeah, man. We touched on Fae, but it has been a little bit of a while. It has been a couple months, probably.
Yes, we talked about Fae in April. So that was before bear market hit hard. So yeah, now, yeah, and I'm sorry guys, I'm just checking when we talk about the Fae market, the Fae token. So this is a proposal from the Fae protocol, and this is called TIP 121C Final Redemption. And this is a very long sort of proposal because it's a 3 steps proposal, and it seems to be the last one. And are you familiar with this, with the Fae situation? What happened just before diving into it?
So it's funny because it's like this is something that Billy covered at the time and actually more recently, because this is something where I think there was an incident earlier in the year, and then there was like a decision that was made in the last couple of weeks. But I have not followed the drama closely. So if you can provide a high, somewhat of a TLDR on this, but I know that
Yes.
it seems as though there was a concern over how an exploit uh, would be recovered or handled by the leadership, and there were some decisions there that seemed to ruffle feathers. But what's a TLDR, man?
So I'm getting this information the from a news article that I link on our document in case you want to put it up. But basically, they provide the context. An attack in April 22, just after we talk about Faye, an attack in April 2022, which drained off nearly 80 million from various refused pools, required the centralized finance platform Faye protocol to come up with a solution to minimize damages to the ecosystems. Faye Labs, the proposal we just mentioned, Faye Labs' latest proposal, which partly recommends revoking participation from Tribe Dao. Tribe Dao is the DAO that manages the Faye protocol. So this proposal partially recommends revoking participation from Tribe DAO, and that received mixed sentiments from the community. The Faye protocol founder, Joy Santoro, announced that the latest proposal, TIP 121, revealed the company intends to reimburse fused victims, and also details plans for asset redemption and the distribution of protocols control value, PCV, assets that manage liquidity, and yield. The members of the community questioned the lack of timelines and hard numbers within the proposal. And they, for example, says, I think, quote, trust has been broken, and I can't believe such bad proposal, probably overlooked by an army of bloodthirsty. Go to the proposal. It says exactly that. This is a non-binding snapshot vote to build consensus on the final step of TIP. Faye backed 101 by DAI with zero fees. And revoking governance powers for immutability as one of the other components. And the second component, Tribe redeems pro rata of remaining PCV. It's a very tricky proposal. What are your thoughts on
Dude,
this?
this is, yeah. I mean, all you really have to do is scroll down to the very bottom and see that there are basically 3 wallet addresses that are weighed in as the more discussions option, right? That are trying to, which is essentially opposition, would you say?
Yeah, you have
kind of got to watch
Olympus
on YouTube right now.
you have the Olympus DAO asking for more discussion, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. So it's essentially, we'll put it this way: if people aren't able to get on 1HTV and see, or like if you don't have the link here, there's 182 million tribe, right? That are committed to one side or the other, and almost half of them are from 3 wallet addresses: Olympus DAO, SEC Investigator.eth, and I'm Your Daddy.eth. So only in crypto, it's sort of, you could see there's this faction, specifically the top voter is Olympus DAO with 56 million of 85 million total in opposition. Yeah, so that's obviously a protocol voting to continue conversation. What is your take here, man? I mean, I don't have a sense of what is quote unquote fair, so I don't really have a horse in this race. I'm not a huge tribe holder, but what do you think?
Yeah, so my main concern is that on this proposal, there is no option for no. If you see the options, there are the options for yes, and more discussion. There is no option. There is no no as an option,
Right.
and that it's is basically the first liner of this proposal says this is a non-binding snapshot. So they are just doing this just for the sake of letting the tribe DAO community know that this will happen, regardless of you know. So that's not fair. I think this is the other side of the coin, by the way, because we saw a proposal. Remember, a few months ago, we covered this proposal about a DAO who didn't want to fulfill the agreement they had with their investors, so they wanted to de-attach the investors from the DAO. This is the other way around, basically.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I think it's interesting. By no means I think it's positive. Um, yeah, I don't. In the other senses, I would like to get a little bit deeper into this and try to understand like who like at a certain point the DAO only had governance power and no treasury management powers. So that will imply, that this was sort of foreseen in a way, because if you do not give, you know, treasury management to the DAO, then you don't trust the DAO.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, when it comes to treasury management, it's interesting. I mean, there's some like Shapeshift that do it internally because they have the personnel and expertise to do it. But then you have, yeah. Like I said, if anybody have any insights or opinions or feels on the whole tribe DAO situation, definitely leave a comment in the space for today, and shoot a DM to either Ed or I if there's something you want to come on and chat about. You can request to speak if you want to. I mean, we could open that up for a conversation. I don't know how much time you have today, Edu, but I'm always happy to bring people up if they want to chat about something they have insights on or feels about. Um, yeah.
Yep. So I don't know. It's a really tricky one. I feel it had a lot of discussion on the forum, up to 74 comments. Um, so
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is obviously a really it's a big project, innovating, and a big partnership with Olympus DAO. So in some
yeah,
ways, this is like the remnants of really cool innovation, but also heady bull market stuff, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
So for those who are curious, this already passed a few days ago, and 20
Yeah.
hours
In the
ago
last week.
they yeah 20 hours ago they posted on the forum that this TIP 121 has been executed, and the Fei is now fully redeemable on 101 with DAI. And you can they link the redeem page on the Fei protocol, so you can go there and redeem your Fei tokens if you had tokens. And also Tribe token is now redeemable for PCV, and you can find the redeem page on the Tribe DAO. And they follow up saying that note that redeeming now foregoes the last amount of PCB to be added after the OTC of BBAL for 1 million DAI with the Aave companies. This means that for every 10,000 Tribe redeemed before this OTC completes, it will miss out on average 21 DAI, and the Aave companies have not provided an estimated completion time. Optimistically, it will complete within 1.1 to 4 weeks, and the amount of underlying assets, including DAI, Fox, and some others, for redemption will not change otherwise. So waiting for redeeming in confirmation of the completion of the OTC will provide the maximum amount of underlying assets. So that's the latest update on the Fei protocol. And if you go to the link they provided, you will find a huge red sign that says Fei protocol is no longer in development. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, again, innovation and attempted innovation. Also, innovation in stablecoin tech is interesting, and there's a whole rabbit hole unto itself. I know that the beyond the DAO news we had sort of had on the docket for today, there's some interesting stuff happening in the regulatory space, which is, it's just a lot of interesting topics, uncertainty, specifically, well, around a lot of things, but specifically around stable coins. It seems as though I don't think it's likely, but you see what happened with Tornado Cash. The U.S. federal government is like maybe in committee. It's pending legislation. It's not like up for a vote tomorrow or anything, but voting on essentially a blanket ban on anything other than collateral stable coins like USDC.
So yeah, I mean, on one side, it's the Fed was obviously doing interesting stuff with the stablecoin research, and I think people will continue it regardless of the regulatory environment. But I certainly hope that um, that it can continue as unmitigated as possible. I mean, even if you have some of these, poor outcomes here, the industry learned a lot about stablecoins from projects like Faye.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's for me, it's a full circle thing where we covered this news back in April, back in December, and now we close the news with this. So, all right, that's all I got. And I
So
have
are you
to
saying
hop
that
off.
we're burying a body in the bear market? Edu, is that your?
Yes.
Hey, there you go, man. I mean, I hear that. Yeah, it's in terms of it's right. It's literally up on the screen as you said.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
Faye is no longer in development. Yeah, and anyways, they got a big
All
old
right.
warning.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for everyone who joined today. Nice to see new faces. I see here Go Luis, James, Dan, Exodus. Thank you for joining. And for the rest of the folks, I will see you next Monday.
Hey, man, we'll see you next Monday. I'm going to stick around and cover a few more items for folks that are interested. But Edu, it's been real, man, as always. GM, sir, have a good rest of your evening and week. We'll talk to you soon, my man. I don't know if we lost Edu. I know he had to hop off here. So yeah, Jim to everybody, and I'm gonna just hop into a couple other stories here. If you don't know, on YouTube, if you head over to 1HTV, you can see the screen share and some of the topics we're discussing. Proof of Humanity is a project we've looked at in the past, been following, and Edu actually has the most context on this sort of evolving situation around leadership access and just the general protocols, health at sort of the human social level. But they have put up for HIP 69 a proposed constitution for the Proof of Humanity DAO. And so again, if you're watching on YouTube, I can share the link actually here in the Twitter space. We're looking at Missouri governor, and it has a good summation of what this proposal is about, and it has it's headed over to Snapshot. So the TLDR here is the proposing party wishes to establish a Proof of Humanity constitution, specifically to set governance rules by amending the POH governor existing policy, right, as far as the contract is concerned. What I want to just focus briefly on today, and we can see here on again, on 1HTV, the IPFS document that is this constitution. So let me actually link this on the Twitter space in case anybody would like to open it. It's a one-pager PDF, and it is the proposed constitution. So again, this is the type of nerdy stuff we like to get into here, specifically as it intersects with One Hive. So let me link this up, and then I'll just say a few words about One Hive and double back to Proof of Humanity. Let's see. Proof. Here we go. Okay, so if you're interested in taking a look at the document, again, it's up on YouTube. It's also just been linked, the IPFS doc, below the Twitter space. So there, it's a really, again, it's a sort of a beautiful one-pager, actually. I like all things concise and clear, and this is one of them. And there's a lot of high-level stuff here that would merit its own conversation, debates, etc. But we want to share this with you because I think One Hive is one of, I'd say one of the few DAOs, but One Hive and other DAOs built in the Gardens ecosystem really start with what is referred to in our documentation as a covenant, but it's essentially a constitution, and it is the first step for launching a DAO, right? In other words, opening your Gnosis multisig is actually not the first step, right? The first step would be an agreed upon set of values and goals for the enterprise of the humans, and then you upload that on chain, right, to IPFS. And in the case of the Gardens ecosystem, any community member that wishes to make a funding proposal, in particular among other actions, essentially, if you want to participate in governance and make proposals, then you have to sign the covenant on chain, and it serves as the North Star, right, for the community and ultimately for the governance backstop that we have known as Celeste. And we have gotten into that in the past. We can cover it again in a future broadcast. But essentially, we like to nerd out on all things Constitution and covenant based because it really frames everything that happens next. And so all Gardens DAOs have a covenant. And it's great to see other DAOs thinking through this and in ways that we can borrow, contribute, to what's being done. So for instance, if this is something that maybe it strikes your fancy, head over to the Proof of Humanity forum, and this conversation is undergoing active conversation. So the sort of TLDR they have here is promoting the constitutional principle for Proof of Humanity is to promote and secure a decentralized, Sybil-resistant registry of humans. Again, promoting and securing. What are you promoting and securing? A decentralized, Sybil-resistant registry of humans. And then they have 4 articles. Okay, so I'm not going to go through all of them here, but it's a very nice summation of their core values. Obviously, there may be some continued iteration on this before it is finalized, but it touches on obviously Sybil resistance, non-discrimination. Article 3, Proof of Humanity, is explicitly so it's explicitly committing to one person, one vote. Okay, and enshrining this in a standalone article in their constitution, and you can vote directly or through a delegate. Article 4 is simply consensus around the presence of a wide plurality of members. Essentially, they have very high thresholds for action. So right now, it must be a 3/4 threshold of all votes cast in favor of doing something, right? So not a simple majority. And so it's interesting to see these thresholds created, and then how that affects the protocol and its governance and all of that. So if you're into nerding out on DAO governance, Proof of Humanity is drafting a constitution potentially for adoption. Let's see. It is an off-chain vote, and I don't think, because the off-chain vote did succeed over the weekend, last Friday over the weekend, and in this case, it looks like make no changes at this point in time. So I think that there is not going to be any new edits or amendments made to the Constitution, but I did link to the IPFS doc y'all can take a look at. Any ideas, comments, again, about Constitution stuff related to DAOs or Proof of Humanity specifically, leave a comment in the section below. Again, if people have things they'd like to chat about, topics for future shows, all this stuff is what we love to hear from all you good people that are tuning in. So if you hear something you like, leave a comment, DM Edu or I, and we can add it to the list of stuff we're talking about. I got, yeah, we're gonna do one more DAO news story, and then we'll get into the general news, which is, it's interesting. This has been kind of a crazy week. So last thing from the Missouri governor we have is related to Radicle Dao. If you don't know, Radicle Dao is a project essentially building the decentralized version of GitHub. They are more important and relevant than ever in the wake of what happened with Tornado Cash. So yeah, Radicle DAO is an awesome project. You can support them, donate to them. They do a matching round on Gitcoin funding rounds, and so we do have up on 1HTV, we have the Missouri link, and I'll see if I can pop it in the Twitter space. But the story is that they're going to partner with an NFT reputation project called OtterSpace to use non-transferable tokens for DAO rep. Essentially, they're saying distribution of influence. And so let me go ahead and link this up again on the Twitter space, and then I'll explain a little bit more context about what it means. Let's see here if we get Radicle. And y'all can use the tags I'm putting below to click into the Twitter pages for any of the projects we're discussing. So this is Radicle OtterSpace. Soul T's for rep prop. Wow. Okay. So The reason I'm including this is because I think any conversation, or like conversation, and specifically applications around soul-bound NFTs are interesting. This is something obviously that came into the industry as a topic of conversation earlier this year, based on the writings of Vitalik and others. And so, again, I'm referring to it as soul-bound. They're referring to it as non-transferable tokens. Ultimately, they mean the same thing. And so Otter Space, which is the project that is partnering with Radicle, they do soulbound badges. Okay, so you can check out their web page is up on our YouTube channel, 1HTV. Again, you can also click in through their Twitter page, which is tagged below in the Twitter space. And they have a list of projects that they have partnered with. We see some good friends like TEC from, sort of Indie Builder Gardens community, as well as other projects we often talk about here on the show. And so whether it's Maker, Uni, Synthetics, and others, if you are interested in checking out the forum discussion, it's linked through the Mizari front end. We'll do the TLDR here. The proposal is intended to implement soulbound token badges within the Radicle Dao to enhance DAO membership and set up a foundational tool for improved governance. And so they're going to work with Otter Space to create this tokenized ecosystem. It addresses the objective of the distribution of influence workstream, whose aim is to, quote, design and implement a strategy for distributing non-financial governing power within the Radicle ecosystem. So this is, I want to just touch on this last point, because this is kind of the big deal, which is, and this is like a question that a lot of people are asking, and so Radicle DAO and Otter Space are experimenting within the space to answer it, which is how, people have been asking tokenized governance, right? Is liquid democracy a thing that's good or bad? There's a lot of arguments on either side, right? So when you have this intersection between token holding, tokens that have monetary value and voting power and governance, does that produce the outcomes that you want? And if not, are there other ways to do on-chain governance that like abstract monetary value or abstracted from monetary value? In this case, the use of soulbound tokens. What this means, just to be clear, is like an NFT that you can't transfer. Okay, so it gets distributed to your wallet, but you can't turn around and sell it. So it's not that it has no, like minimal speculative value. You can't actually transfer it out of your own wallet. And so it's not a tradable thing. I think most people would agree in conversations I've had before on this topic, the one exception to transferability is that the wallet address that a person has with a soulbound token in it, that you could burn it, right? So you could send the NFT to like one address, a designated burn address, but that's it. So you could get rid of it if you wanted to, because if you can't, that creates another set of issues, right? But ultimately, soulbound is non-transferable. It has no monetary value. And so what is the utility of this type of NFT to governance, all right? And what this proposal is getting into is, maybe it's if it's a badge system. So you're imagining like Web2 badges, but they're non-transferable NFTs. So if you're a new community member, you get your first soulbound NFT, right? And this represents maybe a certain amount of voting power. And then you can level it up over time through different contributions, and your governance power grows, but it doesn't mean that you haven't got fat stacks. Like, you're not getting paid in a sense, and that governance power that you have does not have a market value. So again, what I'm trying to get at here is I think in the future we're going to see this, like this sort of separation of governance rights from monetary value, or at least we're going to see more and more DAOs experimenting with this, and that's what's happening, I think, with Radicle and Otter Space. So that is another cool story I picked up from the Mizari governor. And I'm just going to touch on a few like larger crypto issues or stories today, and then we'll wrap up before the bottom of the hour. So GM to everybody again, give us a retweet, subscribe on 1HTV on YouTube, and of course it'll be both, the recording of today's broadcast can be played back both on Twitter Spaces here, the audio and the video on 1HTV on YouTube. So the first story we have outside of the governance space is this red notice that's out for Kwon. So again, a little bit of context here. People know Kwon of Terra Luna fame.
The headline here, Interpol issues red notice for Do Kwon. Kwon maintains that he's not on the run, but his location is unknown after Singapore authorities said he's not in the city-state. Red notice is a request to law enforcement worldwide to locate a provisionally arrest a person pending extradition, surrender, or similar legal action. So basically, sounds like the EU wants to extradite this dude. I don't know. That's actually, I shouldn't say that. I don't know that, but this is issuing. You can see in this in the subheader, which is that the Singapore law, Singapore authorities basically, they got their wire from Interpol and set out, given the information that they have, to find this guy, and he's not where probably he lives or is registered to live or whatever. So Singapore authorities are complying, or they're ostensibly complying with Interpol's request. This is a story I think we'll definitely watch. It'll be interesting to see how this all goes down. There were a lot of conversation earlier in the year, of course, after the spectacular, decline and destruction caused by Terra Luna's death spiral. What, if any, consequences Do Kwon would face? And if I'm not mistaken, the ROK, right, so the South Korea law enforcement at least had conversations with him, but I'm not sure that they were seeking to charge him with anything. But this is sort of a leveling up of the whole situation if Interpol is after the guy. So we'll keep an eye on that. I don't know if I'm sure people have strong feels about Do Kwon. How do people feel about him, doing the perp walk and the clink? I don't know, right? Like, full disclosure on my end of things, like I was personally not, that affected by what happened, but I know a lot of people who were. And I think when I remember that guy, when I remember him tweeting "Steady lads," I wanted to say a gigantic "fuck you," right? Like, this is, I'm sorry, but I know that a lot of people were hurt, so we'll see. But of course, I'm also for applying the law where it belongs. So we'll see what happens with all that. But Interpol, he's probably not sleeping that well. Let's see here. Let's talk about the SEC for a second. I'm talking about shit that's completely off the rails. There's two here. The first, it happened, I think, in chronological order. It was that Gensler was testifying, or no, he's the Wall Street Journal broke the story that he was having, okay, I'm going to keep things civil. He was speaking on the issue of Ethereum, specifically post-merge. So the context here is this arguably the second most significant moment in crypto history happens, right? So after maybe the Satoshi white paper. I'm not saying anything good or bad. People say one way or the other, but it is the second most consequential thing, in my opinion, right? It really has far-reaching consequences. And so, like, less than a week after the merge, Secretary Gensler decides he wants us to know that it might be a security. Okay, so I think the most penetrating analysis on this was essentially saying that this is like clear bad faith, meaning proof of stake networks. So back up a second. The warrant for his contention that this might be a security, right, is that staking itself, it might not pass the Howey test. Okay, meaning, and so I won't get into this now, but that's his position that he decided to throw out, maybe because he wanted to buy the dip that he knew he would create. Who knows, right? Okay, but ultimately it tanked the markets a bit last week, and the rub here, right, is that it's not like the merge just introduced proof of stake systems into the world. Okay, so like if the SEC wanted to provide guidance and genuinely wanted to help, provide guardrails for a healthy crypto ecosystem, right? It could have said something like that. How many years ago did Cosmos launch? Right? I don't know, right? But the point is to wait until after the merge happens and then just sort of throw that verbal hand grenade out there. I think that this provides a sufficient context on like this state of regulatory, like the way they're thinking about the industry. Okay, and it's not, unfortunately, in good faith, at least when we're looking at the SEC, because then this was followed up by another, not specifically from Gensler, but this, actually, I just linked the wrong thing. If you're looking on YouTube, give me a second. What was it? hold on. Did I just not find the thing? The other one was how the SEC was essentially saying that all Ethereum transactions are within United States jurisdiction. Like this is sort of their contention, and so I can share the link to that. I'm sure if people are following on crypto Twitter, they may have already heard about this story. But it was sort of a crazy double whammy from the SEC. One, that the leader saying that it might be a ETH might be a security, post merge, and the other was that essentially something like, because the majority or some significant portion of all nodes on the Ethereum blockchain run or are routed through nodes in the United States, that the ecosystem itself is under the jurisdiction, legal jurisdiction of the U.S. federal government. So again, things are happening that really do, I think, cut to the core of crypto in a lot of ways and are worth paying attention to. I'm not a lawyer, but these types of stories are also elaborated on in greater depth by Billy, right? And so Billy's got a bi-weekly show. If you don't know Billy Jitsu, and I imagine on his next show, he'll be getting into some of these a little bit more in depth. So if you want to check him out, but this sort of narrative that we're going to have, it's clear that we're here, right? Where you get, you fall out of the parabola, you're into the bear market, and then that is the time when you get the shit kicked out of you by the regulators. And so here we are, right? Like it's, in some ways, I guess it's cold comfort, but it's sort of predictable in a sense, right? And again, not financial advice, but of course my personal opinion and sort of where I put my money at. Money where my mouth is. If you have long-term conviction, then these are buying opportunities, right? I don't think we're near the bottom, I'm gonna be honest, right? But I've been strapped in for quite a while, so yeah, you never know. And I think that Gensler managed to tank it beneath, or like close to 1,200 on Ether, and I just think post-merge, let's to take it to the very end of the road. Just because Gary Gensler says something like that publicly doesn't, like, all that does is set up a situation where you have a really protracted legal battle, right? And I think that there's a lot of really freaking smart people in the crypto space in general, not just in the Ethereum ecosystem, but in crypto in general, that would like the capital to put up the type of prolonged legal campaign against the U.S. federal government that like Ripple did, is possible. In other words, this is not, I'm not sharing this to be like, oh, the SEC's coming, it's going to ruin everything. It's more like this, I don't know. There is no trust in the leadership because they are doing things and saying things, knowing full well the power of what they say, and sort of cavalier. Like the people who are trying, whose jobs it is to like protect the American people, they don't act in a way where they're serious about protecting much of anyone sometimes, unfortunately. So that's my rant on the SEC for this week. Thank you for listening. Last story outside of the crypto governance and so on space that we started the episode with is this reversible transactions on Ethereum, and we'll sort of wrap up with this today. Again, I am not a technician, but this is a story that I think is worth taking a look at because of this new tech that appears to be built that enables the reversibility of transactions in the Ethereum blockchain. And there's a paper on it. It's called in the ERC20R, Reversible Transactions on Ethereum. I'll link up the doc here in just a second. This is from some researchers at Stanford. And just to provide, again, a little bit of context here, the non-reversibility, impossible to do chargebacks, right? The non-reversibility of transactions on blockchains in general, not just Ethereum, is kind of one of the core values of the chain, of using blockchain technology. However, it is, like, I don't think it's debatable. I think it is also the case that non-reversible transactions limit the total user market and the total scalability and adoptability of the technology that we use here, right? Because in the world outside crypto, and if you want real businesses to adopt and use things on chain,
they are not, if the trade-off is censorship resistance versus reversibility, they're going to go reversibility. Doesn't matter. Like, that's their business decision. They don't care enough, right, about censorship resistance in most contexts to prioritize it over non-reversibility. So this is completely my opinion here. I'm not a technician, but my take on this at the highest level is essentially this is a tool and it's opt-in. So it's not like they're proposing to make some crazy change to Ethereum. It is more, it seems to me, again, I could be, and if I'm incorrect, I'd love to stand corrected, but it essentially seems like an opt-in tool that should you use it, it's like a layer, okay, that should certain parties choose to use it, that they would be able to enjoy reversible transactions, okay, but obviously this comes with the trade-off that we're referring to, that you will lose a certain amount of censorship resistance should you choose to use this tool. So again, something that's related to core principles in the crypto space in general, and somewhat of a breakthrough, I think, at a technical level by folks out of Stanford. And so I'll go ahead and link this up here to the Twitter space, and we will wrap up for this week. If there's anybody in the audience here that'd like to come up and ask any questions, chat for a moment, feel free to request, and I'll bring you up after I make the post here. I apologize for y'all listening to all this click-clacking there. I thought I muted myself. So last post here under the Twitter space for the ERC20R research. Links to the PDF, also link to Kaili. I'm not mispronouncing her name, but looks like the key members of the Stanford team had a tweet thread about this earlier in the week. You can check out, sort of go straight to the metal there with the research document if you're interested in this story. Again, appreciate everybody who is tuned in this Monday. Hope you all have a good start to your week. Hope you all have an excellent rest of your week, and we'll see you next Monday. Back here with Edu to cover the news. And stay tuned also. I want to remind folks that Billy Jitsu has a bi-weekly show. He had to travel recently, but I think we're going to be getting back on either tomorrow or next week, so you get a good dev perspective on all things in the crypto space. We also have Sea of Hertz, which is a Spanish language radio show, happen bi-weekly as well, and is largely music-centered and music-focused. Sea of Hertz has also got a Giveth donation page. So if you know Miguel, you know his show, you can support him anytime you'd like over there on giveth.io. Sea of Hertz, H-E-R-T-Z, again, Hertz as in radio wave Hertz. Spanish language show. He's got a lot of really cool bands that he produces in Mexico and brings on some really great folks from around the Web3 space. Most recently, he has started to cover specific projects and host certain projects who have a profile that is verified on Giveth. Join his show to share a little about what they're up to wherever they are doing their good work in the world. If you've never heard of Giveth, you should go there like right now. That'd be what you should do after we end the broadcast. Giveth.io, check them out, check out some projects, and give in charity, and you'll actually receive yield, believe it or not. So giveth.io, we'll show there at the end. OneHive.org, follow OneHive here on Twitter, OneHTV on YouTube, and we will see everybody soon. GM, take care.